I've been almost intrigued by Vikings since I was a child. Tall, strong, and fearless warriors that will go on epic adventures. While growing up, I decided to look more into it, so I read about them, listened to songs describing their journeys, and I even tried writing a story about them. I grew more interested watching a TV show called Vikings, but it all came to its highest peak when I found Vinland Saga. The manga was first published on December 2005, with 20 volumes out so far. It took 14 years to have an anime adaptation. I've been following the manga for about 2 years, and to be honest, it couldn't be better. The studio behind this one is Sweat. They also made Attack on Titan, and they're doing actually a great job on both of them. So far, the anime has aired 6 episodes, and I would like to share my view on them. If you're familiar with the manga, you'll notice that they start actually different, but the anime is doing this to start in a more chronological way. Episode number 1. The first thing I noticed was the use of 3D. If you watch anime regularly, you'll notice that usually the adaptations with 3D are not great. But I'm glad to say that on this one, it's completely different. Actually, 3D helps to create more dynamic camera angles and improves the sense of perspective in each scene it's used. This episode tells us the story of Thor, the former leader of the Jom Vikings. The same man that took many lives is now trading a ship, which was half of his cattle, to save a dying slave who escaped from his master. The slave ends up dying, and to his family eyes, they lost a sheep. But for Thor, he lost a person, which now for him that's far more important. I know that strong gentle dads with a dark past are not strange to anime, but as this story unravels, you'll see why Thor is personally my favorite father in anime. The Jom Vikings appear, and Thor's former companion Floki asks him to join in war. Thor has no choice but to join him, since Floki in between lines suggests that if he doesn't, the freedom of the village that he loves so much will be compromised. The villagers rejoice when they hear that a battle is coming. Everyone but Thor's. Thor's son finds a short sword, and there we have one of the best lessons written in anime's history. A sword is a tool for killing people. Who are you planning to kill with this? The enemy, Thorfinn replies. Who's your enemy? You have no enemies. Nobody has enemies. There's no one who is okay to hurt. This, coming from the heart of a former warrior, is so meaningful for me. Only when you're strong you can pretend to be weak, but now he has no other choice but to show his strength. At the end of this episode, we'll learn that Floki's plan was to kill Thor all along, so he hires Askeladd, the bounty hunter. Episode 3. Thor sails with Leif and 5 young men to war. When asked for stories about war, Thor decides to tell them about the day that he stopped being a warrior, with the birth of his first child, Ylva, showing them that family and peace is what they must seek instead of the blood and the violence of the battlefield. Thor and the crew fall into Askeladd's trap, and it is here where Thor gives Thorfinn the very same sword and says, "Use this to protect yourself, only when you really need it." And what follows helps shape Thor's character. He jumps into Askeladd's ship alone and defeats half of the tripulation with only his bare fist, without killing anyone or using his sword, living up to the words that he just said to his son. Episode 4. Showing that he's clearly superior, Thor challenges Askeladd to a duel. At first, we feel like Thor is losing, but that is only for us to learn that he will unlock his true power. Without energy blast or waiting for him to gather power or long explanations from secondary characters, he just charges against Askeladd at full force. Askeladd, who's really smart, uses a counter to break Thor's sword. Usually that will give him the advantage, but he was wrong. He wasn't expecting the counter of a counter. Having lost the duel, Askeladd asks Thor to be their leader, and in details like this one is where Vinland Saga deviates from other series with similar plot elements. That was actually a serious question. That question was as serious as the fight itself. He knows that no one on those boats are match for Thor. The characters have genuine motivations behind their actions, and when you think that they are a cliche, we'll learn that there's some serious thought behind the writing of this story. At the end of this episode, Thor dies on an unfair way, passing the torch to the actual protagonist of this story, his son Thorfinn. So far, I think that the anime adaptation is fantastic. I personally would have liked there was a little more music ambientation to emphasize certain scenes, but it's a solid adaptation overall. If you haven't checked out the anime or the manga, you should definitely do it. Both are beautiful looking and the narrative could be compared to the one of any current bestseller. This is without no doubts the anime that I was expecting the most for quite a while now. I hope you came for the video but stay for the journey. Comment, like and subscribe. Share this video with a friend that should watch this masterpiece. Thanks for watching.